You ready to get into it? Welcome, besties, to another episode of You Know What? And do you know what, besties? I have an interview that I snagged from Carlos King on Porsha Williams. She will be in the upcoming People's Magazine. She did an interview with David Quinn. The magazine comes out on Friday. So I'll give you little tidbits on what they covered, okay? So, they did a photo shoot with Porsha and they channeled Waiting to Exhale. She was like Bernadette, was that her name? And when she lit up the car, walked away, and the car is exploding on something, caught on fire, and she's walking away in her freedom and her independence. So they had fun with this. She brought PJ along with her for this photo shoot and interview. And honey, PJ stole the show. She wanted donuts. They gave her donuts, honey. She was doing her thing and she was here for it, honey. So they also made a part of the home that they used, they made it a courthouse, because they ended up going to court to divorce in Waiting to Exhale. So they were all shocked to hear that Porsha was getting divorced because, as we know, when she made her debut coming back to the Real Housewives of Atlanta, she was coming back as Porsha Gubadia, a married woman. And what we got was Porsha Williams. So she said, she knew it was over when they argued on Valentine's Day. And she looked at his face. And, love left the face. You don't recognize the person that you were in love with or the person who's in love with you. That person had left the building, honey. She saw his face and she said, okay, it is time for my exit. Now she has learned how to make better decisions for herself because she was blindsided in her last divorce with Cordell. Yes, there was no prenup. She had no rights. And what I remember, child, he packed up all her belongings and dropped them off at her mother's house. And she had to start over. She was on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I remember that. But this time, honey, Porsha is like she had a prenup, and we would think and we would say, oh, well, she was prepared this time. So when she looked at him, she wasn't putting up with no mess this time. She saw his face on Valentine's Day and she thought about that prenup and she was out. Well, slow down because Porsha says she is still grieving. She cried a lot throughout the interview, David said, but Porsha can now separate her mind versus her heart. Her choice to leave was to protect herself because she really didn't know Simon. They said he's a scammer, and none. She said, I remember her saying that nothing made sense when it came to things, finances, and other things. Just nothing made sense. She is not ready to date right now. She is focusing on herself, which is good. She doesn't think she's able to like women enough, but she doesn't like anybody. So she's going to be alone until she's whole. She will not push herself like before. She won't push herself on anyone. Oh, so she just admitted that she pushed herself on to Simon, but we knew that. She says she will sit with being alone to heal the loss. And she said, and living alone is very hard for her because they pretty much pin Porsha as the J-Lo of Bravo. Because, she's a hopeless romantic, right? So she's going to focus on herself. And she said about being on season 16 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, she wasn't herself this season. She said it was a shell of her this season, but she doesn't even know who she was looking back at the episodes. And that's very telling. She said, especially with this ongoing conflict that she has with Shamia, it's just, it's not making sense right now. Shamia was very present for Porsha. So they said that we all, fans and viewers, see it as jealousy, right? And yes, I admit I did. Yeah, I admit that. But Porsha said no, she was just lost and going through the motions. Oh, Porsha P, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to take accountability because I was the one that was like, yep, she jealous. But I also said Shamia jealous of her for two different reasons. And yeah, the underlying issue is that Porsha is lost, right? So after returning to the Housewives after 3 years, she was supposed to come onto this platform as a married, happily married woman. And they asked, did she have any regrets? David told Carlos King that his focus wasn't about the show. This interview was about Porsha reclaiming her emotional loss. And I love that. I love that for Porsha. And for David, he wanted to focus on her emotional loss because this experience and what she's grieving can help someone else. But she is excited, however, to come back for season 17. She can, she'll be able to film in the house because as we know it, it was hard for her to film a reality show when she couldn't live in her reality. She had to film outside of her home. And I mean, a lot of women do, certain women do, but that wasn't the case for her. They talk about how she's a hopeless romantic, and she says she will get married. She will get married again. She loves deeply and wholeheartedly. Like I said, they call her the J-Lo or the Elizabeth Taylor of Bravo. And I'm like, okay, so when we met Porsha, she was married to Cordell. She got divorced. She was dating that one guy from DC where she was trying to tell him about how her clock was ticking. And he was like, he left. He wasn't fooling with Porsha. Do y'all remember him? And then here comes Dennis that gave her the baby that she wanted. Did they get engaged but not married? Yes, they did get engaged. I remember. What's her name? Came and sang. Lil Mo came and sang. They got engaged, didn't get married, and then she's, fool-la-la'd with Simon. Poor Fallon. Okay, so maybe not though. But anyway, this is not about her. Back to Porsha. So she is now elevating herself. She wants to make better choices for herself. She's owning who she is, what she did. She cried a lot. David said he made her a Candace Bassett Dillard triangle. Okay. And, he says, when Porsha is happy, the whole room is happy. She brightens the whole room with her kindness. She's funny. Porsha dictates the temperature in a room. And child, I heard that I have that thing too, where I can kind of control a room. And Porsha felt safe and comfortable with David. And now she's filming for Traders happily because she won her court case. And she brought champagne for everyone, not just her and him, but the whole staff, all the workers. They toast, they had a good time. And he said never in history had that happened before with any celebrity, that they would come and just be so hospitable. So the issue comes out this Friday. You got to catch it. I will upload this video, put some pictures of her from her photo shoot. And besties, I'll see you on the next thing. I got to come back and report to you about the interview that Carlos King had with Angela Oakley. Bye, besties.